Before I call the meeting to order, I'd like to recognize Alan Wigington and Kirk Raffield. If you would, Kirk, Alan, I'll turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, it is my distinct honor and pleasure. Kirk called last week and asked if I would administer his oath of office. I was there when he took his first oath at the sheriff's office and had the distinct pleasure of watching him grow up. So, as a new resident, we're after our welcome. Y'all kind of switch places. Raise your right hand, place your left hand on the Bible. I state your name in full.
I, Kirk Daniel Raffield,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will well and truly
that I will well and truly
perform the duties
of
of a council member of the city of Jasper,
a council member of the city of Jasper,
and that I will support and defend
and I will support and defend
the charter thereof,
the charter thereof,
as well as the Constitution
as well as the Constitution
and the laws of the state of
and
Georgia
the laws of the state of Georgia
and of the United States.
and of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Lonnie, would you deliver the invocation, please?
Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to gather together tonight and conduct the business of the city of Jasper. We just ask you to watch over mayor and council. Let them have the guidance that the city deserves and needs. Lord, we just ask you to watch over everybody represented here tonight. These favors we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Kirk, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council has a copy of the agenda. Ms. Hoyle mentioned to me that item C and item J were not put on until today. Item C, request for approval for continued alcohol license. That'd be Mr. Underwood making the presentation. Item J, resolution, Pickens County Comprehensive Plan 2018 to 2022. Myself and Ms. Hoyle will have a resolution. We entertain a motion to approve the agenda with changes.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda.
A motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Being none, all in favor, vote by show of hands. And thank you, council. Minutes of the May 7, 2018 regular meeting. Ms. Hoyle. Before you begin, I'd like to welcome all of our guests, first of all. Feel like you're at home, and because it is your home. But thank you for coming this evening. Lisa.
Monday, May 7, 2018. Mayor Weaver called the meeting to order promptly at 6 p.m. He requested Lonnie Waters give the invocation. Mayor Weaver asked that the agenda be reviewed and approved by council. Councilmember John Foust asked if the mayor could add executive session to discuss a potential lawsuit. Mayor Weaver added the executive session as item P under new business. Councilmember Sneve made a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of the executive session. Councilmember Sonny Proctor seconded the motion. Motion carried unanimously. Mayor Weaver asked that it be noted that Councilmember Tony Fountain was absent from the meeting. City Clerk Lisa Hoyle read the minutes of the April 2nd, 2018 regular meeting. Councilmember John Foust made a motion to adopt the minutes as read. Councilmember Sneve seconded the motion. Motion carried unanimously. Item A under old business. Mayor Weaver recognized Councilmember Sonny Proctor to give an update on the Perrow pool property. Councilmember Proctor stated that he had been looking at designs for restrooms on the property. Item B under old business. Mayor Weaver recognized Sonny Underwood, Planning and Zoning Director, to present an alcohol license application to council for approval. He informed council that Entitled Childberry, manager of the Exxon convenience store located at 1757 Highway 53 West, had completed the application process and the required advertising had been met, but there was a problem with the fingerprints and the city was still waiting on the results. Mr. Underwood stated that the city could issue a temporary license for 90 days. City Attorney Bill Pickett stated that in his opinion the city should wait on the fingerprint results, no action taken. Item A under new business. Mayor Weaver recognized Robert Keller to present the council ideas for a bird observation sanctuary for Doris Wigington Park. Following his presentation, Mayor Weaver stated that the city should form a committee consisting of council members John Foust and Sneve to bring back to council suggestions as to how to proceed with the park. Item B under new business. Mayor Weaver recognized Chief Greg Lovell to present to council the need for a new fingerprint scanner for the police department. He stated that the cost would be $1,500. Councilmember John Foust made a motion to purchase the scanner. Councilmember Sonny Proctor seconded the motion. Motion carried unanimously. Item C under new business. Mayor Weaver recognized Jim Looney to present for council's approval a failure to appear fee for municipal court. He stated that the court clerk had recommended that the city charge a $50 fee for failure to appear in court. Attorney Bill Pickett stated that in his opinion, the city could not charge the fee. Councilmember Sneve made a motion to table the decision until more research could be obtained by the clerk of court. Councilmember Sonny Proctor seconded the motion. Motion carried unanimously. Item D under new business. Mayor Weaver recognized Lonnie Waters to present to council the need for a water line replacement from Appalachian Ct to Twin Mountain Lake. He stated that the low bid on the pipe was from Core and Main at $45,983, but the David Hall Water and Sewer Superintendent had recommended that we use consolidated pipe and supply at a cost of $47,117. He stated that in the past we had paid Core and Main for equipment and had not received it. Councilmember John Foust made a motion to table the purchase until Mr. Hall could appear before council and explain the situation. Councilmember Sneve seconded the motion. Motion carried unanimously. Item E under new business. Mayor Weaver recognized Mr. Looney to present for council's approval holiday lighting for the area next to Wingsology. Mr. Looney recommended the city spend $12,500 on the lighting. Councilmember John Foust made a motion to spend $12,500 on the lighting. Councilmember Sneve seconded the motion. Motion carried unanimously. Item F under new business. Mayor Weaver recognized Mr. Looney to request approval for air conditioning units for City Hall. He stated the cost of the units would be $4,400. Councilmember Sneve made a motion to approve the expenditure. Councilmember Sonny Proctor seconded the motion. Motion carried unanimously. Item G under new business. Mayor Weaver recognized Mr. Looney to request approval to pay the Carl Vinson Institute to find and interview a new city manager. He stated the fee would be $9,487.50 for the search and $1,500 per day for interviews. Mayor Weaver asked Mr. Looney, have there been any thought put into the city finding their own manager, and the council conducting interviews? Mayor Weaver stated the citizens had elected council to take care of city's business and that he felt it was a lot of money to spend on something that the city could do on its own. Mr. Looney stated that using the institute would be more transparent. Mr. Looney stated that the institute would interview council to find out what were the needs and also determine the salary. Mayor Weaver asked would this be conducted in an open meeting. Mr. Looney stated no, it would be done individually. Mayor Weaver stated he thought we had this word called transparency. Councilmember Sonny Proctor made a motion to approve using Carl Vinson Institute to find a city manager. Councilmember Sneve seconded the motion. Motion carried unanimously. Item H under new business. Mayor Weaver recognized Mr. Looney to present to council a request from Pickens Arts and Cultural Alliance to use the city's green space on the second Saturday in August for the second annual Cornbread Reunion event. Councilmember John Foust made a motion to approve the request. Councilmember Sneve seconded the motion. Motion carried unanimously. Item I under new business. Mayor Weaver recognized Mr. Looney to present to council a request from the Pickens Chamber of Commerce to have a wine tasting at an event that council had earlier approved on Main Street on the 2nd of June. He recognized Jerry Nevital, who stated that local wineries would be present and that the first step in getting a state permit was getting approval from City Council. Councilmember Sneve made a motion to approve the wine tasting. Councilmember Sonny Proctor seconded the motion. Motion carried unanimously. Item J under new business. Mayor Weaver recognized Mr. Looney to present to council a request from the Pickens Chamber of Commerce to also have a wine tasting at the bike ride across Georgia event that council earlier approved on the 4th of June. He stated that the same state permit could be used as the permit is good for 3 days. Councilmember Sneve made a motion to approve the wine tasting. Councilmember Sonny Proctor seconded the motion. Motion carried unanimously. Item K under new business. Mayor Weaver recognized Finance Director Lisa Hoyle to present the 2017 budget amendment to council for approval. Councilmember Sneve made a motion to approve the amendment. Councilmember John Foust seconded the motion. Motion carried unanimously. Item L under new business. Mayor Weaver recognized Sonny Underwood to present a report from the Planning Commission. Mr. Underwood stated that a meeting had been held on April 17, 2018 to hear a request from JPM Outlook LLC to have parcel JA07034 of 9.62 acres rezoned from C2 general commercial to R3 multifamily. Mr. Underwood stated that the commission voted to table the request until further information concerning traffic and recreation was provided. Mr. Underwood stated that since that date, he had received a letter from JPM Outlook LLC withdrawing the request. Item L under new business, Mayor Weaver called upon City Clerk to present for Council's review a reduced rate application. Ms. Hoyle stated that the applicant qualified for the reduced water sewer rates. Councilmember John Foust made a motion to approve the application. Councilmember Ann Sneve seconded the motion. Motion carried unanimously. Item N under new business, Mayor Weaver read a resolution for the purpose of authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with Pickens County and the cities of Nelson and Talking Rock to adopt the 2018 Service Delivery Strategy Update, a copy of which is to be a part of these minutes. Councilmember Ann Snave made a motion to adopt the resolution. Councilmember John Foust seconded the motion. Motion carried unanimously. Item O under new business, Mayor Weaver recognized City Attorney Bill Pickett to present to Council an amendment to the city's alcohol ordinances to allow for breweries. Mr. Pickett stated that this would be a major change to the city's ordinances and suggested that Council hold a work session to discuss. Councilmember Ann Snave made a motion that Council hold a work session Monday, May 14th. Councilmember John Foust seconded the motion. Motion carried unanimously. Item P under new business, Councilmember Ann Snave made a motion to go into executive session to discuss a potential lawsuit issue. Councilmember John Foust seconded the motion. Motion carried unanimously. Mayor Weaver closed the meeting. Councilmember Ann Snave made a motion to come out of executive session. Councilmember John Foust seconded the motion. Motion carried unanimously. Mayor Weaver brought the meeting out of executive session and reopened the meeting. Finance Director Lisa Hoyle gave the financial report for the month of April 2018. Lonnie Waters updated council on roads. Chief Greg Lovell gave a report of police activities for the month of April 2018. Chief Steve Roper gave a report of fire activities for the month of April 2018. Councilmember John Foust gave an update on JYSA. Being no other business to come before council, Mayor Weaver asked for a motion to adjourn. Councilmember Ann Snave made a motion to adjourn the meeting. Council is scheduled to convene next at the next regular council meeting to be held June 4th, 2018.
Entertain a motion.
We got one correction.
What's that?
On page 2 under item C, it says that I stated that the city could not charge the fee of $50. Can't charge it without a due process here. That's what I said.
Any other corrections? Entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the minutes.
With a correction. Second. Get a second. Second. Motion is second. Discussion. Being none, all in favor, vote by show of hands. Thank you, council. And you were not, Tony was not here, so. And Raffield was not here. First item under old business, the committee's Perrow Roper Pool property. Dr. Proctor.
Well, as Jim and I have continued to explore putting restrooms on this property, the cost of such a project has become a little bit challenging. There's no funds budgeted for it, and so it would have to be some sort of shift of funds. When we first started having our meetings, we were told of some possible planning grants that might be used on that property. So I've reached back out to Representative Jasper about that, and hopefully we'll at least get some planning funds. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Item B, Doris Wigington Park Committee update. John and
We're going to get with the Conservation Trust and go ahead and see about getting the gates installed. We're working on the general plan, but we would like to do the gates just to give people that sense of security. Hopefully that they can go in and out of there safe.
okay. So I'll leave you on the agenda for next month. Okay, item C. Is that what y'all want to do?
It's a donation.
Yeah, no, but I'm just asking, it's paid for, but
Yeah.
my question is, do we still have a photo?
We could say we give our approval to the place, let's go ahead and do it.
Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and put the gates up, and those are fully funded.
Conservation Trust.
Okay. Motion to approve putting up gates. There was 2 gates at the main entrances.
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Discussion. And the gates, explain a little bit why the gates are necessary.
Well, the gates, they'll have signage on it, it's gonna say this, a dusk to dawn park. And when the gates are open, people know they'll be welcome. I also see the signs on it, they need to be out by dusk.
Any other discussion? Being none, all in favor, vote by show of hands. Thank you, council. Speaking of, yes. First ever. Okay, item D, failure, city court failure to appear. Mr. Pickett, I'd like to readdress that. Did I skip alcohol? I gotta check it already. Alcohol, let's go back to item C. Alcohol license approval for Exxon convenience store, Mr. Underwood.
Mayor, council, I need action on this alcohol license that we tabled last month rather than give them a.
It was not, we did not have fingerprints back at that time.
Right, we have those back now and everything's okay, so I need the council to act on that.
Okay, got a motion, need a motion to approve the alcohol license for Exxon convenience store.
So,
The address of that is, you got, Lisa got that.
1757 Highway 53.
Thank you, that'd be good for the record.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the alcohol license approval for the Exxon convenience.
Have a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Being none, all in favor, vote by show of hand. Thank you, council. Thank you, Sonny.
Do you want to do the other one now?
I'd like to stay in order. You can sit right there, though. I'll save you a walk.
Okay.
My next item on my agenda is city court failure to appear fee. Bill?
Well, that's the one we just had to talk about in minutes that I made a correction. You have to have a due process in order to have the alleged offender come into court, tell why they didn't come, and then if that's what the judge wanted to do, then that's what the judge would do.
And at this point, the item is dead for no need to move forward.
Right. We don't
Okay.
need anything else on it.
Question, council? Thank you, Bill. No approval necessary. Okay, item E, see a little, what I say, alcohol ordinance amendment. Now, this is still Mr. Pickett. Bill?
You have one of my ordinances, proposed ordinances in your packet. That you provided. Evidently, Jim must have not gotten the latest one that I did.
That's the latest one.
No.
It's the one I got this afternoon.
Well, I don't know. The only thing I can tell you is that the ordinance is fair, it's okay, comply with laws, but on page 4, well, you make copies front and back, so there'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, page 5, where the word reserved is. I have already taken out 2, 3, 4, 5, and there are reasons for that. 6 and 7, they just need to come out.
So strike from 2 to 7.
2 to 7, yes. This ordinance will authorize the city of Jasper to have a brewer and have a brewery upon completing all the requirements that we provided for in our alcohol license, such as making an application, paying the desired fee, going through the same process, and your premium. And everything that you have to do to get an alcohol license.
And Bill, are you gonna get us a copy that's official copy that's not the
Yes.
council laying it out? With that, we would need this to be the first reading. Okay. Do we need to vote on it being the first reading? Okay, entertain a motion to approve this as the first reading of the brewery addition to the alcohol ordinance.
So moved.
Got a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? So we'll have this at the next meeting in its entirety, and we read it. And we'll
Sign it. Let's sign it.
I will distribute as soon as I get another copy from.
And I apologize, she may have left for it.
Not that long, is it?
I'd
like to keep
email
it
to them, the mayor and council before the meeting.
We get a motion, we didn't vote on that.
No, we didn't vote.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor, vote by show of hands. Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Bill. Water line installation, Appalachian Court, Twin Mountain Lake Road, David Hall. That was tabled, I believe, from last month.
I was a water operator.
Jack of all trades.
Okay, last month there was confusion on the high bid versus the low bid, and as a rule, the council has always been notorious of accepting the low bid without really good reason. Explain to what's going on.
Yes, Mayor, the low bid, which was Cord and Maine, there was some confusion with the distribution superintendent, and all of that has been squared away, and the city's been made whole on that, and there was never really a money discrepancy there. The actual cause of that was there was some pipes sent with the pump that the distribution superintendent didn't like, so they got all that squared away though, so everything has been squared away on that, to where we can, our recommendation is we take low bid from Core and Maine at $45,983.50.
And again, this item was not budgeted per se, but there was funding from one of the other water line extension projects or repair replacement projects. Which one did we replace? The 108 or?
Well, I had marked two that night, Old Waleska Road and Highway 108 to Refuge Road, 60,000. We budgeted for both of those.
Okay, so 45,000 plus other expenses probably will be a bore involved, will there not?
Yes, sir. There'll be maybe as many as two, but definitely one.
Okay, those bores are not on the
We
approval
plan
list?
on when it's going to take us a while to get to
Get
those.
bids for it and bring it to the council?
Yeah,
Okay.
and get to that position.
So we'll be eating up $60,000 pretty quick, more than likely with this project with the bores.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Say yes, ma'am, or yes, sir?
So yes, Mayor.
I thought you said ma'am. Okay, not have anything wrong with that. Okay, so with that, $45,983.50 will move us forward with the Talking Rock project in council. We have worked on this area for 20 plus years, and we got a lot of Band-Aids on it and a lot of smaller lines that could be replaced. Much better than it used to be. We still don't have a loop, and then hopefully we'll get a loop out of this, and it'll make a better system for Talking Rock.
Yeah, these water customers have suffered.
Well, when you lose water there, it takes quite a while to get primed, to get it back over that hill. So we'll entertain a motion for $45,983 to be switched from the other projects to the Talking Rock, and the approval of Core and Maine as the winning bid.
I make the motion that we take the $60,000 from the other projects, put toward the low bid for Core and Maine of $45,983.50, and then we'll spend what's left, the bores. Hopefully that will cover it.
Okay. You got that, Lisa? A little bit addition to that.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion? Being none, all in favor, vote by show of hands. It's unanimous. Thank you, council. Thank you, David. Good job. So you're still 2 away. I've got the auditor coming next. Under new business, annual audit presentation. Mr. Pilgrim. If you don't mind Sonny sitting next to you,
Not at all.
I'll just go back and do that.
Why don't you go on back? We'll call you back up.
You want to sit next to the author? All right, I'm going to
Clay,
stay.
thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for having us back for 2017 audit. Before I get into the numbers, I will report that things did go well during the audit process. Ms. Hoyle and the entire staff, Lindsay, the entire staff were very helpful in providing us information to do the audit. With that being said, I do have several documents in front of you there. You've got the bound audit report, which is where I'll spend most of my time. If you want to have a copy of this, I think Lisa's got an extra copy or two if you need one. Then there's 3 letters. Some of which is boilerplate information, and other I'll spend a little bit of time with when I conclude the numbers here. But we'll start first with the audit report. There was actually a little bit of Lisa and I were just talking a few minutes ago, there's actually a little bit of miscommunication. You know, we typically have a little PowerPoint that we give you that's got, I'm going to go through the same information, but whenever we asked about the PowerPoint, I think she thought we were asking about going through the numbers. I think she thought we were talking about the PowerPoint. We were actually talking about the report. So we'll, in the future, likely have that PowerPoint back. It's not intentional that we don't have that PowerPoint, but you can probably follow along just as well. And it'll actually be the report itself we'll be going through rather than pulling stuff from the report. So I think it might be better in some regard. Just don't have the pretty little graphs that I usually provide. So, although there are some graphs in the MD&A, so I'm not completely left out on that. All right, so in the report, I'm going to be referring to page numbers and what we're going to be talking about. So we'll start here with page 1 of the report, and that is our independent auditor's report on the financial statements for 2017. Pleased to present that for 2017, we do have an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, or a clean opinion. Nothing came to our attention during the audit process that would prohibit us from issuing an unmodified opinion. That letter talks about some of our responsibilities during the audit and the city's responsibilities. As you know, the financial statements are the responsibility of management. We're required to audit those financial statements, and so we've done so and have an unmodified opinion. If you will flip along with me to pages 14 and 15, they open so you can read the entire statement there. That is the City of Jasper's Statement of Net Position for 2017. As you're aware, I always call your attention to this statement. Pages 14, 15, and 16 are the only 3 statements in this entire report that bring all activities of the city together on a full accrual basis of accounting. So these are the only 3 statements in this entire bound report that do so. And so that's going to have all your activities, like your general fund that you guys spend a lot of time with throughout the year. It's going to have all your special revenue funds, capital projects funds. It's also going to have your enterprise funds, like your water and sewer and your sanitation. So you'll note there at the bottom of page 15, it's actually about midways up there, for 2017, the city had, under governmental activities, $8,692,345 for net position or equity. Business type activities, $16,002,267 for a total net position of $24,694,612. In comparison to 2016, 2016's total net position was $23,784,035. You'll note on your next page there, page 16, is your statement of activities, which gives the details of that increase in net position. There, 3 lines up from the bottom, you'll see the change in net position. This statement can be a little confusing because on here you've also got your component units, your discretely presented component units. But you'll note 3 lines up from the bottom, 3rd line over, 910,577 is the increase in net position for fiscal year 17. A few items, a few changes here as far as revenues and expenses are concerned. A large part of the increase was due to capital grants and contributions. Those were up about $433,000 for 17. Revenues were also up a little on the enterprise funds, your water, sewer, and your sanitation. Expenses were also up in that regard. We'll look at those here in just a moment as well. Page 17 right there beside 16 we're talking about is your balance sheet for the governmental funds. You all are looking a lot probably throughout the year at your general fund, as that is the chief operating fund of the city. So to call your attention there on the general fund column, this statement includes both, or basically your major funds, which for 2017 is the general fund and your 2014 SPLOST fund, and then all your non-major funds are grouped together there. But under the general fund column, you'll note total fund balance of the general fund at year end was $1,794,457. Of that, $1,709,992 is unassigned fund balance and basically available for spending at the discretion of council and mayor. That is around 41%, a little over 41% of annual operating expenditures. So one thing we always look at is we take the unassigned fund balance, compare that with your annual expenditures, which for 2017, that number can be found on page 19. It was $4,126,373. So your unassigned fund balance is about 41%. We take that 41% and compare that to 12 months of the year, and that gives you right at 5 months of operating reserve, so to speak. Now, that's not a perfect calculation, but that is a calculation that's pretty common in the industry to look at how many months expenditures do you have in fund balance. 5 is a healthy number, so you do have a healthy fund balance there. In comparison to the prior year was $1,484,507 for unassigned and $1,561,126 for total fund balance. Last year's was about 4.8 months, so real similar to the prior year. It did go up just a little. Part of that is because the expenditure numbers also, there's several factors that go into that fund balance calculation. And like I say, it's not perfect science, but it is pretty normal in the industry to compare that. All right, flipping to page 19. Page 19 is a statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance for those governmental funds we were just talking about there. So this is going to be your income statement for the governmental funds. On the general fund column there, total revenues $4,098,985. That's up a little over $200,000 from the prior year in regard to total revenues. Total expenditures, I just mentioned $4,126,373. That's up a little less than $400,000 for the year. So that gets you down, with your other financing sources, that gets you down to a total increase in fund balance in the general fund for 2017 of $233,331. That increase in the prior year was $331,109. So still an increase, but a little smaller increase than in 2016. All right, if you'll flip with me to pages 21 and 22, and they're front and back, so I apologize there, but we're really focused more on the net position there again. The last page there on 22 at the bottom. You'll note total net position of the water and sewage fund, $15,995,565, and total net position of the sanitation fund of $6,702 gets you your total of $16,002,267. In comparison to the prior year, total net position of those two funds was $15,407,316. That is an increase of $594,951. The details of that increase are found on the following page, page 23 there. You will note that the net position of the water and sewage fund increased $608,529. In comparison, the prior year was $325,320. The net position of the sanitation fund decreased $13,578 in comparison to $9,571 decrease in 2016. So a large part of the increase in that position for the city was in these the enterprise, or really the water and sewer fund there. And I mentioned earlier intergovernmental revenue there, 344, 343 was up for the year. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going through the notes to the financial statements. I always jokingly tell my council mayors and commissioners that when you are struggling to sleep at night, these are the pages to turn to. Some of the significant accounting policies here can get rather, if you're not an accountant, you can get rather lack a little interest on. So, but I will call your attention to one more number in the financials, and I'm happy to, of course, talk about others as well. But if you'll flip to the very last page here, page 63. Page 63 is City of Jasper's scheduled projects financed with special purpose local option sales tax, or SPLOST. You'll note there for 2017, for the 2014 referendum, the city expended $859,082, of which about $72,000 of that came from other intergovernmental revenues. So that really, actual SPLOST dollars spent were, well, actually the actual SPLOST dollars was $859. There was some additional in that fund for $72,000 from grant revenue, probably LD monies, I would say. Gets you to the total of that fund of $931,396. I'm more than happy to talk about any other numbers in this bound report as well, any questions you have, and I'm also happy if you don't have questions now, I want to continue flipping through, I'm happy to answer questions after the fact as well, so feel free to reach out on that. Before I talk through a few of these items in the letter, any questions? Questions, Councilman?
Since you're here this close, the city's positioned itself to spend somewhere between $6 million to $8 million in our enterprise fund, that's wastewater and water, mainly wastewater expansion. How are we positioned, you feel, that type of move?
I mean, in looking at that fund, of course, you're probably going to get additional service from that as well. I assume, probably, or at least some.
You talking about some grant money?
No, I'm talking from the expansion itself is going to lead to expanded revenues as well.
Well, it will be over a period of time. It won't be right away.
You are at year end, and you're at about $15,995,000 on your net position in that fund, equity in that fund. Now, of that $15,995,000, it's important to note that $14,689,000 is invested in capital assets, net of the debt related on that. So you're at about $1.2 million. Of course, there's $30,000 there restricted for use in capital improvements, but you have about almost $1.3 million there in unrestricted net position as well. So
pretty close.
Right. Yeah, but I wouldn't. The decision itself, of course, I wouldn't want to give my opinion on the decision itself. That wouldn't be.
We put it off close to 10 years now, so it's. And we're getting close to our permit, I imagine. So anyway, that need to be brought forward. Absolutely. Just for the record.
Yeah, and that is one thing. I mean, like I say, the long term, I think the goal is to, of course, increase your system and generate additional revenues from operations.
Yeah. Question, Council?
All right, I won't spend much time on this, as some of this is required information. You should have 3 letters in front of you. One of those letters is our standard, what we call our management comments letter. It's really what you get out of an audit. You can almost guarantee any, or not any, but several firms in the state can put these numbers on paper for you. Although one thing I will throw out there that is a little different that I deal with City of Jasper, that I don't have a lot of clients who do this, is your city clerk does prepare the financial statements. This financial package is prepared 100% by her. Now, there's certain things in there we have to prepare, like our independent audit report. But this entire report itself, these financial statements are prepared by your city clerk. I do over 50 government audits and probably have less than 5 that do that. So that is a testament that you do have a good job, a good clerk here in place as far as understanding of governmental accounting. So that is a little different. But one of the things we do as a firm, and we're big on as a firm, is looking at your processes. So we will, I mean, a lot of your staff, a lot of you are not only your department heads, but staff in general. We interview, we meet with, we go through, we walk through the processes, we talk about how they do things, to try to make sure that you've got good separation of duties and things are in place here at the city. And so we do that each and every year, and we do have a couple of small suggestions for improvement, I'll call them, really dealing with processes, segregation of duties, and when things are approved and authorized, that sort of thing. Nothing there that we feel like is substantial and should be, there's no material weaknesses noted, I should say, in the controls of the city. Second letter I have here is what we call our communication with those charged with governance. These are communications that we are required to communicate with you. When I have that PowerPoint up here, typically it's got a few of these things on there. Not going to go through these in detail. I have provided this to you. The reason I'm not is this is all mostly boilerplate information that would be the exact same each and every year. But I will make sure there's a few things I do want to call your attention to. That is, if we had a new standard, a new GASB statement that was issued this year that applied to the city of Jasper, this is the letter that would let you know that that was implemented during this year. During this year, there were no new standards adopted for the city of Jasper, and the existing standards were not changed, the existing policies were not changed. This would also tell you if I had any difficulties in performing the audit. I mentioned earlier, everything during the audit process went smooth. We're well in time here to have the report submitted to the state of Georgia prior to the June 30th deadline. We've actually had the audit really wrapped up. We've been just going back and forth on dollar here, dollar there on the financial statements, just fixing rounding errors and that sort of thing for several weeks now. So we've really had this wrapped up for several weeks.
We could have done this in May.
Been close, probably. Been real close. Which is a testament again to your staff. That's really a timing thing. Like you say, the timing is important. That you don't miss those deadlines, but to be even further ahead of schedule is
Explain
great.
to council why meeting our deadlines are important.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If you are late to submit your report, now in a given year, they'll basically smack your hand. They'll give you an extension, but you are unable to obtain that extension multiple years in a row. And if you don't, then you'll get, I don't want to call it a slap on the hand, but they will start at some point withholding grant money from you.
They do that pretty quick.
It can get, yeah, they will, exactly. And it can get pretty ugly as far as the Department of Audits and Accounts is concerned. So it is important to meet those deadlines. And we've not run a risk of that, I don't think, in the past several years.
Actually, this is maybe the closest in the June.
One other thing to note is, as with any audit process, we can only audit what we are provided. So one of the things we get from management is a signed management representation letter. That letter says that nothing was withheld from us during the audit process. And so otherwise, if we didn't have that in our file, how would we know we really got all the information we were supposed to audit? So we did have that, and that is all on this letter. Everything else is pretty much just talking about journal entries and that sort of thing. The third letter were some additional procedures, some agreed upon procedures we performed regarding some state law compliance. The city of Jasper, of course, receives hotel motel tax. That hotel motel tax is required to be expended in accordance with Georgia code. We have reviewed expenditures for 2017 that the chamber, it is the city's responsibility.
Council, that's item B. So he's.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm skipping
You're
that.
fine. Go ahead. I just want to make mention we're in item B.
So we, very common for us to do this. We do this we've actually probably got 3 or 4 counties and cities that we do this on an annual basis for. One county expends their money through about 4 different 501c6 organizations. So I visit 4 different organizations every single year to review their expenditures. So in this case, there's a list of procedures we performed here. This letter goes through those procedures and it goes through the finding. It calls it finding. That is a little alarming. That is what we're required to use, procedure and finding. Finding does not mean issue. Finding in this case means here's what we did, here's what we found, not here's the problems we found, so to speak. As far as each procedure we performed, there were really, I would really say 2 things here that we recommend some improvement on. They were not non-compliant items. They were just things we feel like the process could be better to both, to clarify and to be, as far as, one of them, for example, is allocation. So, as you know, this money is required, and the exact wording, Mr. Pickett could probably quote some of this, but the exact wording is basically trade and tourism. It's required to be expended for promotion of trade, tourism, conventions, trade shows, and it goes on and on. But and there's 15 different subsections of the code that different cities and counties follow. So it's really, it can get very complicated. It can get very gray. But the particular section that you all are required to follow, or that you've adopted, So we basically test their expenditures of that. Well, as you probably know, those expenditures are not always just direct expenditures. They can be allocable expenses. So there could be some salaries that are allocated to the use of this tax. There can be some overhead of welcome center that can be used for the expenditure of this tax. And so one of the things we do is we review the allocation to make sure we feel like that allocation is reasonable. Obviously, there's going to be some judgment there. Our main suggestion here, and we discussed this with the chamber actually before we left, but our main suggestion here is not that we feel like there's any issue with the allocation or the expenditures used. It's just formally documenting how that allocation took place. So what we always recommend, just to be clear on everything, is if you're allocating overhead, for example, based on square footage, if you were to take this room here and say half of this is for this and half of this is for this, then you should have some type of diagram of this building with square footage and how you laid that out, how you came about with that 50% or that 30% or that 25%. That's all we're saying, is it should be documented formally how those expenses were allocated. What we did is we tested that allocation to make sure that all the salaries were not being used from hotel motel tax, lodging tax, and they were not. And it's not necessarily all or none, I'm not saying that, but we did test that allocation to make sure we felt that was reasonable, both on the overhead side and on the payroll side. And so we did do that testing, felt like that was reasonable. Our recommendation there is only that you formally document that. The other recommendation we have here is that the city and county enter into, it doesn't have to be formal every year, change significantly, but enter into an agreement each year to talk about what the requirements of those expenditures are. So that it's in writing what you all, because there are times where the city, based on the code, the city is allowed to keep a percentage of the tax, as you all are aware, and that's unrestricted money can be used really for the city's purposes. The remaining part of that money is required to be spent based on state law. If the city were to decide to send additional funds to the chamber above and beyond what is required by state law, they could do so, and they could restrict that money themselves. So all this is saying is, here's the money we're going to be sending you, and here's what you should be doing with it. What you can't do, as your attorney would probably tell you, is you can't go against what state law says with it, but you could, any money you send to really any entity, I think you could probably put some internal restrictions on that. So that's kind of where I think annually, and it could be an annual document that just rolls forward and you update it from year to year, but I think it's good to have an agreement in place with.
Something we could do in January of this year.
And that agreement I talk about, when I say that, the chamber did have email communications with Ms. Hoyle discussing what they were planning to spend it on, and so we did review that as well to make sure that we agreed with. So in other words, it wasn't that they were out there spending blindly, by no means at all. She had discussed with them.
We had a letter back, I think 15 or 16, that was ongoing.
It was ongoing. Yeah, that's actually, yes, I reviewed that letter as well. So there was a letter that is open-ended, and that's what I'm talking. You can do that. It's just probably good to adopt that on an annual basis. You can just, that way if there were to be anything changed, everybody's clear. Nothing that's going to require a lot of work and research on part, just updating that. But that's one of the things when I do these. Typically, I check to see that there was an agreement on file, so we know. First of all, so I know what I'm testing as well. Because sometimes, like I say, there's things in those contracts that are outside of what state law says, not contradicting state law, but that will be outside of what they say. But all in all, the allocation thing, every single one of these hotel motel tax compliance type procedures I perform for cities and counties or chambers and CVBs, every single one in the first year that's on there, every single one. I've got several that we've been doing for 8 or 10 years, 12 years, and those you can see it's really helped a lot for them to strengthen their allocations and processes over time. So I think it's a good, not because it's additional work for us or anything like that. I do think it's a good practice to follow, to keep an eye on that, because ultimately my understanding from DCA, who is what they consider to be the hotel motel tax police, if someone were to make a complaint, DCA would be the body that would regulate that. And I have a client who, not in his current role, but in his previous role, he's a county manager now. In his previous role as city manager down near Savannah, he was called before the hotel motel tax police. So he's very aware of how it works, and that sort of thing. They were spending some money on Christmas lights or something, and it's for promotion of tourism, not for the expenses themselves. So there's a lot that goes into it, but we met with DCA ourselves to try to really get, so we would have a good understanding of that back several years ago, and so my understanding from them is it's good practice to there's actually some discussion on the law whether or not it's required, but I don't think many people do it, to be honest with you.
Questions, council? Anything else, Clay? With that, we'll entertain a motion to approve our 2017 audit. And a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion? Being none, all in favor, vote by show of hands. It's unanimous. Thanks again. A great job.
Thank you all again as well. Like I say, any questions we can answer, don't have to be year end. We're here to help throughout the year. Just let us know.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Item C, request for approval to continue alcohol license. Mr. Underwood? This one we added.
What we have here is a restaurant. We will not be getting another license. We're just going to approve a license for the Ably Asian Cuisine. They have sold their restaurant, and this will be the gentleman that has bought it, and he will be getting the license for the rest of the year.
Are they transferring to the new owner?
No, they can't transfer it.
I mean, they'll be, I used the wrong word, the new owner's getting a license in his name?
Yes.
Okay, is the old owner going to carry, is there going to be a break between now and the time that the license will approve for him?
No, they'll work off the old license under Ably Asian Cuisine, and this will be the first reading of Mr. Chung Min Hang.
Hey, you can speak Chinese.
Well, I don't real well, but
Maybe Thai, okay. And I think council years ago passed some little caveat that would allow this type transfer within a year. It's just been a while since I've looked over it.
we will have, like I say, he turned everything in. In fact, they came in office last Friday, and it's the reason we got it on the council tonight.
Okay. So, council, we're in the middle of a transition of ownership of Ably Asian Cuisine.
Yes.
And we need a night to approve the continued alcohol license for the changeover. Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the continuation of the alcohol license.
Motion to approve, continue.
Second.
Motion second, discussion. Being none, all in favor, vote by show of hands. Thank you, council. Thank you, sir. Okay, the brewery again. Zoning ordinance amendment for the brewery, C2 and M1. Mr. Looney?
Thank you, Mayor. Earlier, we had the first reading of a new ordinance for brewery. One of the things we have to do to complete that is decide on the fees to be charged for license of the brewery. In your package, you have a list.
Item E, Jim. You want to deal with zoning first, and then move right on?
Excuse me.
It was so much fun to do.
It was so much fun, we'll do it. There's a recommendation to allow this brewery to go into commercial and manufacturing areas. That would be C2 and M1. Some discussion with Bill Pickett on whether anyone would ever want to put a brewery in the manufacturing area. I can't sit here and say that they would or would not.
I think you would want the manufacturing. I don't know why you'd want to be out on the main road, but that means, to be able to, I think is what would be important.
I hear that, I'm just,
And,
I don't disagree.
Our biggest concern, council, would be the central business district, where it appears that at first glance, why not? But a brewery probably would have several employees, and it would create a parking issue for the central business district above and beyond what we already have. So it would have to be a special request to come before council, and probably would want to change it. That's the first thing I can think of, except for maybe odor or whatever, something else it might have. Maybe even noise that you wouldn't want in the central business district. I've never seen a brewery, well, I have seen a brewery operate, kind of quiet.
Pretty quiet.
Very little smell, but they do have a little odor.
And typically 6 employees in the brewery.
This is Jack Daniel Distillery.
Yeah.
That'd be
I don't think we're voting on Jack Daniels.
But they may want to come. But that being said, council, we're looking at C2 and M1 at present. Would entertain a motion.
So moved.
A motion to approve C2 and M1 as
Both. We're doing both?
That's the motion was for both.
All right.
C2 and M1. Got a motion, a second. Did I get a second? Ann made a motion.
I made a motion.
Second.
Got a motion, second. Now discussion. Being none, all in favor, vote by show of hands. Okay, C2M1. Item E, Jim.
All right, back on fees. In your package, you have a list of fees we charge for beer, wine, liquor by the drink and by the package. There's also a special one for a beer group and catering. Need a decision on how much to charge a brewery. Now, this will be manufacturing and it will be tasting.
Do you have any examples? You call any locations what they have fees for?
Some of them have been up to the $3,000 levels. I don't know, Bill, do you remember what it was?
Well, the two closest counties to us were 1,000 and 2,000.
Okay. Now, they can give it away, but they can't sell it.
City, excuse me.
They
City.
can have tastings, but they can't sell it on premises, correct?
No, they can sell.
They can sell it?
They can sell.
Not for
Only so
consumption.
much.
Yes,
They sell.
can be sold for consumption, according to state bills 85.
Are you representing the brewery?
Yes, yes.
Would you like to come forward and introduce
Yes,
yourself, tell us a little bit about what's going on?
Be happy to, sir.
We were about to do this all without you.
Tony, introduce yourself.
My name is Sonny Proctor,
My name is Ken Dunbar.
and we're representing the Emporium Brewing Company.
We appreciate you guys taking consideration for the effort that we're trying to establish.
Since you weren't part of the earlier section of this,
Yes,
Mayor,
Does it
for
say-
your information, they were at the work session we had after the May meeting.
okay, I missed that.
They were.
Get me up to speed then. Do you have a problem with C2 or M1?
No, sir.
Okay.
C2 is,
How many employees will you have?
we're looking at 6 for day one.
Okay. Can it grow up
Yes, sir.
to a large number?
Currently, the Reformation Brewery, which is in Woodstock, currently has between 20 and 25.
So you need a parking lot for the people to.
Yes, and the property that we're looking at is, it would be, our parking lot will be on the property.
And where is that exactly?
Over off of Jonah Lane.
Okay. That's C2.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Tell us a little bit about your business, if you will.
We're home brewers. We've been brewing ourselves about 7 years total. We enjoy the chemistry behind it. I'm the one that enjoys the chemistry behind it, and we have a good product. We've talked to a lot of the breweries around Georgia, North Carolina, and some in Tennessee. They like what we're doing, and they recommended that we get into the business ourselves. We're also looking at this as being a retirement
venture for us because we're all further along in our careers. Yeah, well, our day job is all we're further along in our career, so it's time to retire, and none of us want to sit at home.
Could this grow into a brew pub?
No, sir.
Can't? Okay.
No, we will not be selling food at this.
This community has been looking for a brew pub for 10 years.
Okay.
Just wanted to bring that up.
One of the things that we like to entertain and would be able to invite in food trucks to come alongside of our facility, separate, totally separate from us, but would provide food at their expense, their cost. You know, they would go ahead.
We would set up the facilities that would allow them to come in. We would provide.
That's like a whole new thing for the future to discuss.
Yes, sir, it is. And there's a good example of that down in Woodstock called Truck and Tap.
Okay.
They have the upstairs facing Main Street is a 20 tap room, and then on the back side of that, they have a food truck in there daily.
And this is a common business practice for most of the microbreweries in the metro Atlanta area.
Okay.
They don't sell food because then that becomes a brew pub. So what they do is they invite in the food truck, which is a separate business, but allows them to have food there, but them not being in the business of food production or sales.
Okay. All right. So back to the initial comment that got us up here was about selling the beverage that we make. The SB 85 that took effect in September 1st allowed breweries in the state of Georgia to now sell from premises up to 3,000 barrels a year, which is quite a bit of beer. That allows us to sell by the glass. It allows us to sell by containers, and containers can be a 12-ounce can and a 6-pack, a 16-ounce can and a 4-pack, or 32-ounce crowler, which is a jumbo can, or 32-ounce glass growler, or 64-ounce glass growler. All of that can be sold on premises, or they can buy the beer by the glass off the taps.
Okay. Is that going to cause a conflict with our 50% clause on our food alcohol?
Yeah.
We were going to exempt, we were going to exempt breweries.
The ordinance exempts them, I believe.
Okay. How many of that? Missed one meeting.
How many barrels of beer do you expect to put out in a year's time?
Initially, we're looking at probably 80 barrels our first year. 80 barrels our first year. With the market that we're seeing and our growth potential, we're thinking that in the first 3 to 5 years, we can be closer to the 1,000 barrel range.
There's a limited amount you can go in and sit down and drink. It's pretty restricted, right?
Yes, well, I'm not 100% sure on the consumption on site. I think it's more or less like what it is at a typical restaurant or bar. The amount that I can sell for you to take home is limited by the state at 288 ounces.
The name of your brewery again?
4 AM Brewing.
What's the name of your beer?
Which one? We have 20.
We got some names.
We have a Scottish ale that right now we're playing with. The name is called "Give Me Your Keys" because the
what I was thinking.
Yeah, the alcohol content is 8.8%. That's a dark Scottish ale.
It's like we just had you increasing revenue.
That's what we're hoping for.
No, I'm not talking about that one.
Oh, no, I know what you're talking about, but I'm hoping on my side we have an increase in revenue.
We're calling it the police department's taking us out. I'm going to say we're hunting the honey hub.
In discussing the work session, that was one of the things that we wanted to make sure of, that during the weekend, we're only going to be open right now Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. But during the weekend hours, that we would look at either contracting with off-duty city police or sheriff deputies to help us with crowd control and parking just around the building.
Fantastic. Any other questions, council?
You were talking about the growlers.
Yes, sir.
Does the state dictate material the growlers are made out of?
Yes, sir. The federal government does. A growler is glass, and a crowler is the 32-ounce can. And then we would fill those on site, and then we will be purchasing a can seamer, and they will be sealed before they left the building. And then the growler will have to have, by the federal laws, you have to have a seal put on it so that it's not shown as an open container.
Okay, may I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
What do they pay in Woodstock for a license?
We did not look at Woodstock because we did not want to be in the Woodstock area.
Okay, we don't want to harm you, but we would like to be fair.
Yes, sir. Our business plan is kind of based on Grumpy Old Men in Blue Ridge and Grumpy Old Men.
Yeah, but okay, what's their fee?
I believe their fee is $1,000.
$2,000.
Is it $2,000? Okay, I stand corrected.
Could we look at something along those lines of what Blue Ridge has?
How about splitting the difference?
Well, let my council make the decision.
There's certain people you don't want to negotiate with.
I can remind you of a story. I asked this gentleman one time, I said, what do you want for this land? Trying to buy a piece of property for the city. And he said, $5,000. And he said, I said, we'll take it. He said, that's my price. I don't know what hers is. He pointed to it why. So I've been using that same plan for a while. Thank you for your time, gentlemen, and I'm sure the council will be fair. Thank you. Welcome to Jasper, Georgia, I hope.
Well, I live here.
I hope you've made the commitment.
My family's been here for a very long time, so.
Let me ask you something, do we get revenue off all of your sales?
You get the sales tax, and there's a
alcohol license.
Excise tax. Sorry.
Even if it's consumed on the premises?
Yes, sir. And that's measured, and that's based on how much we make, not how much is sold. That goes by volume, not actual sale. So I pay an excise tax on if one of my buddies comes in and gives me and I give him a free glass of beer, I still pay excise tax on that.
And property tax and business license. Just
yes,
keep
sir.
some. We may compromise with you. Thank you. Thank you. With that input, Jim, you want to ask the council for a reasonable amount?
If the council's looking to meet for a suggestion, I would say the middle area between our two cities, $1,500 would be a fair license fee.
Make a motion, $1,500 for a brewery license fee.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion, and we'll let the owners make a little discussion if they would like. You'll have to plead your case for the 500 extra?
Well, as a business owner, I would like to get it as cheap as I possibly can.
Well, it's not 2,000, so.
That's true.
Okay. Any other discussion, council?
That would constitute the first reading.
Oh, this,
So does the
so
ordinance.
this is part of the ordinance. So this will be our first reading, and we'll have to have another one at the next meeting,
Okay.
which will be the final reading of the vote.
Yes, sir.
My attorney just brought to my attention.
Would
So,
you include that in the ordinance?
And zoning.
So it'll be part of the second
be part of it.
reading.
Entertain a motion, you got a motion, did I get a motion?
You got a motion
A second, any further discussion? Being none, all in favor, vote by show of hands, at $1,500. Thank you, Jim.
Yes, sir.
Item G. I'm not sorry. I don't know how it's like this now. Item F, Planning Commission report, Robert Walker. And Sonny, if you will come with him, and Jim. How you doing, Robert?
Good, how are you doing?
Good. Good morning. Ahead of that. Robert, appreciate you being here this evening. Would you tell the council what happened at the planning meeting?
On the meeting of May 15th, 2018, we took in we considered the annexation into the city to rezone from agriculture to R1. The council or the planning commission did approve that.
Okay, what's the property? Give them a little bit about the property.
Let me give you the, it's 110 acres, parcel number 0298-064-004, 111.8 acres. Annexation into the city is residential.
Questions, council? Okay, well, I know we have a group here this evening that would like to be heard. I know it wouldn't bother to call or tell me, but I just got that feeling. And I understand that you made you got a unanimous vote from the planning commission to be in favor, to vote in favor of. But we have residents from that area tonight. I'd like to recognize if they would like to and give the other side of it. And what I'm going to do is hold you to a reasonable amount of time, 2 to 3 minutes. And if you need more time, we'll make decisions whether we'll do that. I just don't want redundant conversation. And the planning commission met, and the planning commission serves as a sounding board, and you've already been heard once, friends and neighbors. But we're going to listen to you again from the council, because the council might not have been there and got the information. And we are dealing with the neighborhoods, and we'd like to be fair and discuss everything within reason. So now I would, before I talk to you, to the community, I'd like to recognize the developer and owner of the property and make a presentation as to what's intended to happen in their neighborhood. But would you please come forward and tell me who you are and what's going on Sharp Top Ridge?
Yes, sir. Mayor, City Council, appreciate you hearing what I have to say, and I can be brief. My name is Paul King. I live in LJ, and we acquired this property earlier this year with the intention of doing a residential development, a high-quality cottage-style residential development with roughly 23 residential dwellings. And that is still our intention to do so if we can possibly work it out with the community and get your support. And that's certainly what we want to do. We have done some additional research since our meeting back in mid-May. We've asked our civil engineer to take a look at a feasible way that we could possibly come in other than coming in on Sharp Top Ridge Road. And that's still in the works. I can just tell you at this point that there's not an easy way to do it to meet state road qualifications and compliance with the grades that are needed. You need about a 15% or less grade to make it a reasonable entrance into your development. And at this point, what he's looked at off Burnt Mountain Road, it would not give us that type of grade. So we're still working on that. We understand there's sentiments in the community on Sharp Top Ridge. Again, you know, we acquired the property, saw the way that the original roadbed was in there. It looked like from years ago, and that's really the most ideal way from our perspective to come in. Again, understand their sentiments, and we want to do what's right.
How many homes are on Sharp Top Ridge? Have you counted?
I'm not sure, but it doesn't. Obviously,
12 units, 12 homes?
13. So, yeah, we're talking about a development that's 23 residential dwellings of the 117 acres or 111.
How large a tract of land will each property?
It's 3/4 of an acre. Yeah.
It'll be probably larger than that, probably an acre plus.
Acre plus. So it's not
you
large.
Said 111 acres, only 23 units. So you actually not going to develop all the property?
No, sir. We had not planned to. We planned to divide up some of it on out parcels and sell some of it off in larger plats.
Okay.
Is what our intention had been, just based on the topography. Okay. We spent money to have a topo map done to give us the grades to see what was doable. And so really the part I'm talking about lends itself well to doing what we'd like to do. If we can work through the issue of getting in there. And certainly we hope we can find a way to come in from that, you know, from that road, but understand we have to work through some issues. We're not through the engineering work, okay. And that's what we're in the midst of now.
Well, we're here tonight to approve the annexation, and annexation only. We can't approve you. That's a whole different process of approving your site.
I understand that.
But with that, I'd like to ask the council to ask you any questions they may have on their mind.
water and sewer, city water and sewer to these homes?
City water, but not sewer, it's my understanding. It looks like we'll do septic based on where the tie-in is to the city sewer. So our intention had been to do septic. Yes, sir.
The septic will allow a 3/4 acre lot?
If you have city water, it will. Yes, sir.
We have several.
That will have to be approved by Limestone Valley.
We've done the soils and it looked good so far, so, yes, sir.
How close are you going to start your new development to the existing homes now?
Alan, can you answer that? How close our closest dwelling would be to the existing home?
Well, there'll be one, the last home that was built at the end of the road.
Right.
The first lot there will be pretty close. On the other side of the road is a pretty good hole, so it'll be on the back.
Right,
Before we get a decent building site.
Yeah, we've got a preliminary concept plan we can show you that we drew up, but, I don't know, 300 feet, something like that.
On the left-hand side.
On the left-hand side, yeah. It looks like there's a brand new dwelling right there kind of at the top that, I don't know if it's occupied at this point, but that's kind of where the entrance would ideally go, but again, we're trying to work through this to see if we can make it work, so.
Would you have a seat there and
Yes,
let
sir.
me recognize the community and see what their concerns are?
Yes, sir.
At this time, I'd like to recognize the residents, any resident of Shark Top Bridge, and hear your comments. Okay.
Hey there, Mr. Mayor and Council. So let me understand this correctly. So what we're voting on tonight is annexation again from what we had from the planning committee? Or if the vote is in favor of moving ahead, the developer can pretty much start developing right away?
Tonight, if the council approves the annexation, that's it, just the annexation, just a piece of property inside the city called R1. And from that point, the development plan will come to the city if that's their wishes. It appears they would be. And we will have to look over it to make sure it's feasible and come up with any plans. There will be a soil erosion plan. Quite a bit of work to take place before a building because how many acres actually want to develop? You got 111, but you're only building 23 homes.
Probably 30.
30 acres?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm just a little surprised that Mr. Walker didn't explain to the council the turnout from the last meeting and our grave concerns about this project coming through our street. And I think
that's why I opened it up for discussion because Robert just presented what he had.
Right. Well, it went on for a good hour, and it was.
Well, I hope it
was approved unanimously, but I think that the key that we're all concerned about is on our street is the safety aspect of entering Choctaw Ridge Road from really any direction, but specifically coming from Jasper, making that left-hand turn into Choctaw Ridge. It is, without question, one of the most dangerous left-hand turns in all the county. And a recent study done by the Dollar General indicated that we have about 4,000 cars that pass through there every single day. And I think it would be pretty easy. It would be a 10-minute experiment if we had 3 council members in their car and 3 in the other, and let's start all up here and then try to turn left and put the other guys on our street trying to turn out and see how that would work out. Because I think it would be off the table at that point because the safety aspect of it is off the chain. I mean, you better hit your blinker somewhere between the Citco and Wayside Animal Clinic to inform people that you're turning left onto that road. And I can't even imagine the amount of construction, the logging truck, you would never get a logging truck down that road on that first hard turn to the right after you enter Sharp Top Ridge Road. It would be impossible. The amount of damage that you would do to our property would be, you wouldn't be able to, the amount of money they would take and the legal action to fix it would be more than I'm sure that the city could handle. So I think it's all about the safety aspect for us. We're not trying to stop progress in this town. I love this town. I think we need all the money that we can get by the additional revenues and and having the cottage style homes, I think that would be very beautiful. But there just has to be another way to enter that property, as big as it is, to enter that property without having to come onto our road. I think it would be extremely dangerous, and I don't think it'd be very well thought out. Have I missed anything, guys?
I do. I'm Freddie Phillips, and I live at 205 Sharp Top Ridge. And, you know, all I would do is encourage each one of you council members to come down our road. Just come down there and see what that road is like before we have to make that decision. Because it is like, I often tell people, my family and all, that it's like living in the country, but I'm in the city. And it's so close, and the street has always been.
That's what you told me when I bought your house.
That's exactly right. And but it's a wonderful street and neighborhood to live in. And I agree that if we get all of those houses down there, 20-something houses, 2 cars per house. At least, yeah. Look at the amount of traffic, and we're talking a very small, small 2-lane road here. And it's not even marked down the middle, so, I mean, it is going to be very difficult. And I agree, I don't mind at all having a new subdivision down there. I think it'd be wonderful. But I don't think our road is the proper road to have a new subdivision entrance and exit to. So that's what I'd just like to say. I wish y'all would all go down, come down that road, and then make your decision about what you think. Because I really don't think it's going to be proper to do that for our road. Thank you.
Is there a study that we can review, or at least make public notice about the grade and the 15%? Because, I mean, is there a DOT study or some kind of study that we can look at to see that it's not feasible? Because I have a feeling that if we keep going down this road, this is probably all the public input we're going to get right now. And I have a feeling it's not going to go our way, and that's not the way that it should go. So I would say table it. Let's take a look at that DOT study. Let's have the development pay for the study.
I don't have a DOT study on that property.
So where do they get 15% grade then?
15% grade.
I'm sorry?
Where do they get the 15% grade from then? Because I've actually went down there and walked that property, and there's a spur that runs right straight down to right below your house. And the road that turns off at the Burnt Mountain Road, and there's not a 10% grade there much, so that's a 15%. Up that hill, it goes straight up the top of the hill and goes up the road.
Let me ask, what about the grade? I got 2 in the back here. Let me talk to those 2 guys.
Yeah.
16% is what the county standard is for the minimum or maximum steepness on the county road or a new subdivision road. And I think that came from the DOT. It was what was safe, and it's in the county specs. It's a 16% maximum grade.
Okay.
You can exceed that for a few feet, but it's unlikely that that you can do that. And I'm talking about just a real short distance.
Have you been up that road? Have you walked down that hill?
Actually, I built the road that's there back in the 70s.
And it's got 2 or 3 runs down through it, and it's pretty level going down through there. It's not a.
I built Sharp Top Ridge Road.
Yeah, I know. But there's also another one that runs down from the top of the hill, runs down to Burnt Mountain down there. The road's been there since before then, probably.
Old Burnt Mountain Road.
Yeah, it goes down. No, it goes under Burnt Mountain Road. When you cross over the valley, right, where you're talking about the last house, you cross that little gully down through there. On the far side of that, there's a road that runs all the way down to Burnt Mountain Road.
It goes to the left?
Take the left, runs right straight down to Burnt Mountain Road. There's already an exit right across from Johnny's, where Johnny turns off to go to his house. There's an exit to the right. You can go right up that hill. And it's no more grown up than the one you built.
Is that road on the property that Daryl's talking about? Is the road that Daryl's speaking of right now, is that road on you guys' property? Is that part of y'all's property?
I'm not really sure, sir.
It is, yeah, it is.
I think
I know it is.
Walk it with you if you'd show me where.
I mean, I will. I'll show you.
Let me, for argument's sake or conversation's sake, Mr. Pickett, you own the property. At one time you did.
Don't own it.
You did. And why I'm asking you that, I want a history. What was the plans when I heard a little back in the day that J.O. White bought part of that from your father?
No, that's.
Well, tell me the truth, then. What's the truth of the story?
First of all, I don't have a dog in this fight.
I know you don't, but you're sitting here for a person who can give me some information about the history of that development.
I can say that we built the road that's there, that's covered up with little saplings that have grown up.
But why was it not developed?
Didn't have the money.
Okay, that's a quick reason. But the property was laid out to develop that entire ridge, which
Yes.
these people all have their houses early, and now,
Well,
it's what I always hate when a person builds a house low, and then the person builds a house high and all the water comes down on top of the low house. The lower part.
Sharp Top Ridge was
That's just what I'm asking. I want the history of Sharp Top Ridge.
Ridge was developed by Pioneer Homestead and Development, which is a group of about 8 guys, including one of the objectors' father-in-law. It's not his father-in-law, but Ed Jenkins developed that.
Okay.
Ed Jenkins.
He's passed away. He's not here right now.
I understand that. Ed Jenkins and Phil Landrum.
I don't know about that.
And,
I'm not asking you, Kevin. He's getting the talk right now.
And if you wanted to know that there was
I think the council needs to know what's going on with the property.
Lee Newton, there was about 8 guys that got together and they developed what Pioneer Homestead Development Company, which that was them, developed all the property inside the city limits that the FC Tate estate owned, which includes Indian Forest, Oakmont, everything behind the tech school.
Right, all the way.
Mr. Tate used to live right over there where the tech school sits. And all that property, that company, group of individuals that formed it, developed all of that subdivision in behind the tech school.
So they built the road out to a dead end, let it grow up.
They built the road out to where their property line stopped.
And onto the Pickett property at the time. But
no, Daddy didn't own it then.
We built to the city limits.
Who owned it?
FC Tate Estate.
Okay.
Are you anticipating to have to do anything to the road for your project? I mean, it is a narrow road, and there's at least one very sharp turn in it.
Yeah, I think that that's something that's out there as an option, or potentially something that we could do. You know, the one road that Chastain looked at for us as a possibility, he said the grade's steep, it's 1,200 feet of roadway, and it'd be very expensive to put it in, and you'd lose a residential lot. But I think all these options can get knocked around and considered and boiled down to what makes sense for everybody concerned.
And how about when you do your out parcels, is all the access to those out parcels going to be from this property?
No, sir. None of them.
Okay.
No, sir.
And how far along in your development of that, do you kind of know where the access to those properties is going to be?
Well, we've got interested parties in those out parcels, and it's mostly folks that live on Old Burn Mountain that have property across the street that are interested. These guys, Alan Dover back here, could tell you, because he's engaged in more so than I have.
Yeah.
But no, they would not come in on Sharp Top Ridge.
You were discussing an engineer would be able to look at this with a grade and the access rather than Sharp Top Ridge. When would you have that available?
Well, I mean, we already engaged him, 2 weeks ago, and we got a preliminary from him. So, he's not at our disposal, but we could certainly bring him back into the loop and look harder. That gets expensive. We were hoping at this point to get annexed and get our R1 so we could afford and justify the expense to bring these civil engineers in at $150 an hour.
Has that road ever been striped for traffic?
No.
I mean, my concern is strictly access. That road is not a road for construction, in my opinion.
Bill, you were saying something about a road. Were you talking about one going out to Burnt Mountain that had the saplings growing up on it?
There was There was it's not, I don't know where you call it a road or not, but at least at one time it was. There was a dirt extension of that road that goes all the way out to the end of where you can build. Couldn't go any further than that.
It doesn't go all the way out to Burnt.
It's not Burnt Mountain.
It says Old Burnt.
It don't go to Old Burnt Mountain. It goes all the way out on top of the ridge. I think what they're speaking of these people that mentioned that, is there appeared to be some kind of an old logging road before my time, 100 years ago, that used to go down there. I mean, there's lots of old timber cutting roads over in all the woods here in Pickens County.
All right, thank you, Bill. We're here tonight to listen to the recommendation. Yes, sir, would you like to stand and give me your name, please?
Yes, Ken Blazer. How are you today?
Say that again.
I'm
sorry, I missed your name.
Ken Blazer.
Okay.
I'll talk to you
Good
on
to
Thursday
know.
night. The gentleman that built the road.
Mr. Newton?
Would that road pass DOT today?
What generally happens when you've got little steep curves, and we followed the contour when the road, and you can tell that, but, you know, without any deep fields or anything on the road. When you get to those type curves, generally the speed limit is reduced on those, you know.
10 miles an hour, 15 is
Something
pretty
like
good.
that. When the roads get real curvy, the DOT will reduce the speed limit.
But before you build the first house, I made a list. First, you're going to have the logging trucks come through there. Then you're going to have the tractors come through there. They'd probably take 6 or 8 concrete truckloads to build a house. And then you've got all the building materials where they have the rafters made to bring it on. I'm afraid even before you build a house, the road is going to be torn up. It's 19 foot wide at its peak. The shoulders, there's no sidewall. There's no curb.
No shoulders.
We don't, but we love it. Like Freddie said, it's like the country, real close in. And we're talking years with traffic, not the people, the contractors, years. And at my age, I don't even buy green bananas. So I think that we consider all the damage it's going to do. And if you're doing this just to save money, I'd hate to try to put a price on what it's going to do to us. So it's serious thought.
We're here tonight to discuss one thing or to have one action, and that's dealing with annexation. We've discussed the future, traffic, construction, development, but the legal issue tonight is the annexation. Mr. Pickett, I've been to court a few times, and I'd like to ask a question. It's hard to block a man from his property. Could you give the council a little insight? Because what I would like, this has got to be developed. I'd rather it be inside the city with our control than in the county situation. So tell me a little bit about ingress and egress.
Got a right to go. And this body, just to annex a piece of property right there at the end of the street they're talking about, within the last year and a half. And I don't see him here tonight. He was here the other day. Yeah, there he was here the other night.
Can we approve the annexation with some contingencies or based on the project itself?
Don't think so at this point.
R1
is R1 has certain uses. Just any zoning classification has certain uses. R1 is a single family detached home. It's not an apartment complex. It's not anything multi-family. It's just single family development.
Let me ask Daryl, What size is your lot?
It's just about, over half an acre is all it is.
It's very valuable land, obviously, because of all the views that people enjoy out that road. So I thought they were small lots. Mr. Newton?
Let me, if the property is developed, if it's annexed, and these people go on with the project, the road will be curved. What they build, according to the requirements now, their road will be 20 foot wide with curb and gutter on it. I'm assuming they're going to put a nice entrance going to it. It's going to enhance what you already have. The lots will be over acre lots. There won't be any lots under an acre. They'll all be at least an acre lots. I don't see that there'd be any more than 20, 22 houses on the property. When I was county commissioner, what we'd do was have the developer to put up a bond in case the road's damaged. Then there'd be money there to repair the road. And I think the county still does that. I'm not sure about that at any development. But I don't think that the developer would do anything to harm the value of your property. You're going to add more vehicles coming in and out of the road. When you get to where you come out on Burnt Mountain, on Cove Road, you're going to have the same problem because we're not adding traffic on Cove Road in either direction. Just where you, like you talking, where you turn in. You know, that's the only addition that be to it. You know, when you're coming out of Sharp Ridge, you've got a good sight distance to the left. If you're turning,
No, you don't.
You don't have.
You may have 300 feet.
That hill, coming up that hill, cars drive 70 miles an hour.
So
you coming up that hill.
Well, utility further in there, and it's all you can do is get.
At 45 miles an hour, it takes 9 seconds to get where we go.
I know I live on 53, and I've got a 700-800 foot side.
We can't deny them.
On Burnt Mountain, there is a very large area that you can see. You can see both ways where the road comes out. On the railroad, it's not.
I'm having a conversation up here, and I apologize letting y'all get out of control. That's my favorite part of this job. But anyway, yeah, Billy. Yes, sir.
I want to ask you, when you said put a nice entrance up there, on whose property?
It's on their property.
They don't have property out there.
At the end of the road.
Not out at Cove Road.
Cove Road.
Not Cove Road, it'd be on where they're, where the.
That was a little larger, good.
No one to
put it there either.
Yeah.
How about a construction entrance, aside from their road? Is that a possible feasibility where you would be coming in building from the backside and then at the end tied into their road?
Sure. I mean, yeah, that's one of the things we just need to research a little harder and see if that would be a possibility.
I think we're making the same arguments we made in the last meeting, and yet nothing's been done. Not one thing has been done.
Well, Kevin, let me address your question.
All right. I'm not talking about the council. I'm not talking about you, Mayor.
I'm going to address your situation, your question as where we're at here tonight, why we got to do the process we go through. You came, you had a chance to speak. I was not here. I don't think any of the council members were. And I'm cramping, guys. I apologize for my standing. The right for use of property, the right to use city facilities, roads, etc., is a certain right. And I am one of the people who hate congestion more than anyone in this room. You take me toward Roswell, I get claustrophobic. I can't stand people trying to get out in the road like a bunch of rabbits. And the only thing that concerns me about this is we might end up with the developments we have. John and I were just discussing one-way ins and one-way outs in subdivision and roads. All of a sudden, you have to start putting these stop signs everywhere. John and I were discussing while y'all were talking, possibility of a stop sign on Cove Road, since it is a city street. That would make life a little more feasible, but you're looking at 22 plus 13 homes. Somebody do the math, 35? 35 units. And that would be the end of that Sharp Top Ridge, because at the end of that road is a drop off. You can't access, that's why it's called Sharp Top Ridge, because there's no climbing that hill. Maybe you can meander around up where Darrell was talking. I'm not sure, I've not climbed it in a while. I actually have been over in that area years ago. But we're here tonight to discuss right for man to use his property. If there's any reason why the city council should legally say no. Bill, can you think of any?
Well, I don't think I would be.
You're not a good person to ask, but you are my lawyer.
I know, but I can't.
Well, I don't know of one, council, but I still care about my citizens. My road that I bought for you, I went to put a cul-de-sac there several times, and I was afraid to as mayor to do that. Mr. Walker would like to have one as well. I think Mr. Looney and Mr. Fountain don't like Ridgewood that much anymore. So we got through traffic, but this is a dead end. But that's my piece for this. I'm not even supposed to be debating, but I'd like the council to understand, because I'm about to call to a motion. Yes, sir. Mr. Jasper, you want to stand up? Right here.
Once this annexation is approved, I'm quite sure it will be.
Well, you shouldn't address it that way.
Trust me.
You may have the place.
Well, my question is, once this annexation is approved, then he can do whatever he wants to with the property.
He can do it on R1 restrictions.
Right, which means anything that he needs to come up and down our street to do
yes.
is legal.
If he meets R1, we'll approve those.
You have to approve the development first, though.
So there's no stipulations that the city council can put, we can approve this if you will do this or this.
Once the council approves R1, it goes to the building department, and we will scrutinize it, Mr. Looney, and I'll probably look at it myself. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't understand you.
I'm trying to think, I'm just trying to think of, I mean, it's like, there's so many unanswered questions about this whole development that I don't know how this council can, in good conscience, go ahead and approve it.
I don't see why they can't. But we've got a planning commission, we got a favorable recommendation from the planning meeting.
Right. But I mean, what about the citizens that currently live there?
Greg,
listen to
Greg, if I might add something. I understand every one of y'all's concerns. Yes, we run for this position, and this is a tough position to be in, because we still live in a small community where I hope and pray that we all still care about each other.
Right.
This issue come up in front of this council on a piece of property years ago down across the racetrack. That whole subdivision showed up, and they were fighting. They didn't want that development, that piece of property in front of their home, developed. As the mayor's already stated, I have to object to what Kevin said, because I live on the busiest street in the state. I don't like all the traffic coming through, cutting through, bypassing town, but I couldn't stop it along with another council member. That's not what we're here for. We want to do what's right, and it's like the mayor said, we're sitting here tonight to discuss and vote on the annexation of that property. And what I'd like to ask y'all, and I understand y'all's concerns, because once again, I don't like the traffic where I live. I would love for the traffic where I live just to be the people that lives on my street. But the last time I checked, we still live in a free country where if you had the good fortune to take your retirement from REA and buy a piece of property, and you wanted to develop it and make you a little money, who is it for us to say, no, Greg, you can't do that because you might disturb some of your neighbors? Now, this is a tough position, and this is what I would, and I understand y'all's concerns. But I would like for y'all to put yourself in this position and say, you know, if this was my property, if I'm willing to work with the people that's already there, is it right for the city council to tell me that I can't develop my property or sell it? It's a tough position to be in, but it's what we have to do. And it's not ever going to be popular with everybody.
Yeah.
We don't have a problem with the subdivision. We're not trying to stop the annexation. We just think there's another safer way to get in and out. Right now, there are people wreck out there quite often in that same spot where we turn in and out. You don't know, it's had to happen a lot, quite a few times. How many of y'all have ever, I know Mr. Radcliffe and Johnny's been on it, and Will most likely been on it quite a few times. How many of y'all have drove out that road by yourself and know the road?
It's been years or so now.
And your road, there's a lot of traffic, but it's, compared to our road, there's a lot of difference between your road and our road.
Well, there are 18-wheelers comes out and out my road.
You know, let's go to the business at the end of it.
Was it already developed before you purchased your property?
Was what already developed?
Your house that you're talking about?
The area I live in is probably one of the older communities in the city.
So it was already developed.
So if you read the ordinance, certainly there's a requirement that we afford a man the right to develop his property. But there are also other things that we weigh into. They're pretty clearly defined, and I think the one that's coming up the most is safety, which is one of the things that we have to assure that we're doing something that's safe for our citizens. And the other thing is the burden it's going to put on the roads or our resources. So those are the two things kind of breaking it down. You've got a man who has bought a piece of property. He's entitled to do with what he wants as long as it meets the law. And on the other side, we've got a group who says it's isn't safe, and it may be burdensome to the road. And I can identify the problem. It's a tough solution either way, but that's what the code really clearly says.
Can you give me a direct answer on when your engineer could give us a report on the grade, and if it is possible to have access from another point?
Probably a couple of weeks. I can certainly speak to him again. Again, there's some high fees involved in getting that work done. He gave me a preliminary, and
if that
it
was
wasn't good.
If that was a possibility of another access, even though it may be difficult, is that a route you're willing to take?
I'm not sure it is, honestly. It may make it just not feasible. You know, we're trying to come in at a price point that's low 300s. Something that's affordable, really nice, will add quality residential that this community needs. But you know, if we blow the budget on infrastructure, you can't afford to build something that you can market very well. So I'd have concern. Yeah.
Do we have any way to look at the safety
Mr. King,
on that?
did you have
we have historical data on it, on that intersection?
Yeah, I mean, do we have anything to show that?
Well, we got it on a topo map, so you can read it off the map that we had done.
But did you have an engineer walk it?
He had, has Mark been out here, Alan?
I guess my question.
Please direct comments to me, otherwise we're going to have a fray.
Well,
I'm afraid.
He heard this.
Well, talk to me.
15.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
He heard all this at 15. And I just wondered what action has he taken to try to solve it? You know, rather than walking and looking at a topographical map. You know, anything on paper since the 15th of May?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Every one of those
things. We're signing a blank check.
Okay. Every one of those lots are view lots, I'd imagine.
No, that's correct.
This Choctaw Ridge. Okay.
And I believe you had a question about historical data on the intersection.
I have no data on that.
I was just asking.
Mr. Lovell, you're the chief of police. You've been most of the accidents in Jasper, Georgia. Are you familiar with anything over there except when it snows? It's a terrible place when it snows.
That's the worst place in the world would be when it snows. There has been wrecks over my 22 years there. There's been some good ones that we'll have spurts. Well, we won't have no wrecks. So.
But that's because the ice is there before it does anywhere else.
Yeah, they wreck the parking lot of QT just because they can't find 15.
But no, I don't have any data except for the police department would offer us, and the biggest accidents usually occur because you go in that curve, inevitably a person going to Bent Tree or wherever panics right there because that's the first place you slip. And everything on the right is a drop. And
I could call and get you some data from my 911 center of wrecks at that location. But that takes some time.
Okay.
Research that.
Mayor, can I ask one more question?
Yes.
I'm going to be done. Sir, if we decide to table this vote on this annexation until our next monthly meeting, could you do your due diligence, the very best of your ability will permit you to do, as far as any other access to the property, and bring back numbers to where you can have an ironclad case for this council to say, to have in front of us, and quite possibly show the residents of Sharp Top Ridge that you are trying your best to do the very best that you can for everybody concerned. Is that something that you could do? Or is that something you would be willing to do?
Sure.
I think our
I mean,
concern
again,
is.
it requires, I'm sorry, I was just gonna respond.
Go ahead.
Again, it's more investment money to have additional engineering work done, which, you know, if he comes back and confirms what he gave me in a preliminary fashion last week, it's not going to be favorable for us.
And what I would like to add to this, and I don't know, I can't speak for the rest of the council, but what I'd like to add to this, if you're going to do this, if you're going to go through this process, can you have these numbers on paper to show the council and everybody else concerned, where it's just not, well, this is what I've found out, this is what's been told to me? Is this something that you could do and provide for everybody concerned?
Sure. I mean, I'd be happy to provide, you know, details. Details are good. I got a preliminary number. I'm not sure that it'll change a lot unless we take a whole different approach from where he said we could most likely come in off Bird Mountain, which is going to be a very expensive road to put in. It's an additional 1,200 feet. It's probably a six-figure investment to get that road in like that. So you're adding $5,000 or $6,000 per unit to your cost on infrastructure. So, but yeah, I mean, I want to make this work if I can.
Well, I think we all want to make it work. I think what we're hearing from them is a safety issue, and I think we want to be able to assure them that it's not a safety issue, and one way in, one way out. Hopefully, we can give some options to y'all as well as to them.
Last comment for me is thank you for being here, the residents, and also to you. As a recent person out campaigning, I did travel that road. I understand the technicalities of it. As frustrating as it may be on both sides, thank you for sticking with it. Please do not lose your temper. Remain professional at all times. That's why we're here. I know it's frustrating. I have heard you more recently than a lot of these folks up here, and I understand the concerns, and I understand you're right. So please remain patient with us.
Maybe you could read it back. You're going to table it until he comes back with the drawing.
Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Could I go ahead and put that in the form of a motion?
Please.
I'd like to make a motion that we table the annexation of the property on Sharp Top Ridge until our next council meeting with the very best information, facts, and figures that you can provide the council and the residents of that neighborhood.
I second.
Motion second. Discussion?
Would that include the engineer being present?
No, it didn't say it.
Okay. Just the findings.
I think we're hitting it. I think I'm hitting the pocketbook already.
Okay.
Can I pay for an outside engineering?
I'm sorry?
Can I pay personally? Can I pay for an outside engineering study? That you would.
I'm sure you can talk to the developer here and he'll let you pay for it.
No, my private outside. Can I pay for a private outside third-party engineering assessment out of my own pocket that you would also be able to review? I would hate to leave it up just up to the developer.
If you do that, we'll look at it.
Okay. I'd hate to just leave it up to the developer, carte blanche, with his engineering firm when, you know, there's other firms with other methods.
Because I'd like to see as much safety and
As long as there's arms, if you got arms distance between you and him, Kevin.
I'm just trying to keep it fair.
I don't know that be your brother.
Just try to keep it fair.
I understand that, John. I'm talking to Kevin. Any other discussion?
What was the safety data from Greg's that he was talking about?
Data from dispatch?
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Being none, all in favor, vote with your hands. Thank you. It's tabled until next month.
What's the date?
Didn't say it was defeated.
Hey, if you just say no extension of Sharp Talk, we'd be out of your hair forever.
Okay. Item G, paving project 2018. Bid opening, Mr. Waters, Mr. Looney.
Mayor, council. Okay, we had a bid opening today as far as researching downtown business district. We had 5 bids to come in. They are as follows. Johnson Paving at $595,556.80. Colwell Construction, $788,452.65. Colditz Trucking at $594,468.60. Northwest Georgia at $520,591 and a nickel. Bartow Paving at $667,269.95. The apparent low bid was Northwest Georgia Paving at $520,591.05.
Have they done stuff for us already?
Yes, they have. They did Moore Street and all that back in that residential area behind Cagle Funeral Home.
They've done a lot of work for us.
Yes, they did.
Okay. Just real quick for me, tell me how they bid on the milling.
Okay, the reason we withdrew the first bid contract was there's a lot of questions about the milling, how it was going to be done. Okay, none of the people that called me and asked these questions could give me a formula or a rhyme or reason how to figure milling. So, per Mr. Pickett, Mr. Looney, we discussed it, and I was instructed to pull that bid package and let's find some new information. So the same companies that had called and questioned this, I asked them about milling, how did they come up with what needed to be done, all kinds of questions. And they said there's not a pattern, there's not a formula.
Can I stop you right there just a moment? At the last meeting, why we decided to pull the bid was because C.W. Mathis, I believe it was.
C.W. Matthews is one of the...
Told us that we needed to mill more than we anticipated, so we wouldn't have the crown so bad on Main Street.
Well, mainly Mark Whitfield was one of the main ones that they mentioned, but also Main Street, yes.
Yes. So, was it not determined then what the milling would be? How many feet from the curb, how many feet from the edges, whatever the case, all that's curved, I believe, even Mark Whitfield, and we got it over. Yes. Did we come up with 5 feet, 6 feet, 10 feet of milling?
No, we did not.
Like I told you this, I asked you this morning, how many feet did 594,000 get us?
Okay, the information that we put in the bid package was based on the other companies made the comment after we worded it that we would leave the milling up to the companies in order to give a substantial good road for the city of Jasper. We did not put a set amount. We even called the Department of Transportation, and we had 3 different people on the phone that day in Mr. Looney's office. We read the statement to them that we were going to leave it up to the individual companies as far as the milling, because the city of Jasper did not know how to figure milling. We had been instructed by some companies that we might need 1.5 inches of milling, we might need 8 inches. So we had no idea.
That's what I'm trying to get to. And if we'd had everybody from Johnson to Caldwell to Northwest Georgia City of Matthews evidently determined bad bidding.
No, they did not.
Give us the same inch and a half, 5 foot of milling, and that would give us apples to apples. Now, these guys are coming in and determining what they want to do. And then we don't know what the bids are. How much milling is in Johnson? How much milling is in Caldwell?
We have, that was in the contract.
Okay, so how much milling we get with, who got it?
Northwest.
Northwest Georgia, 520 something?
I'd have to look at that.
That's my biggest concern, is because we could get a little bit of trouble if we don't get some apples to apples.
Okay, we did attempt to get apples to apples, but
we let everybody make applesauce.
okay, the comparisons on these milling, every one of them are different.
They want to do it a different way.
For their company to give the city a good street, in their opinion, the milling itself is different on every one of them.
So they all have different opinions of what the milling should be.
Yes, and that's what every company and also the DOT said, you know, when you bring a crew in, every one of them's gonna have a different opinion as far as what to do.
Okay, let's hear Northwest Georgia. How much milling are they gonna give us for 520,000? Because milling is everything on these streets. Last time we paid Mark Whitfield Street, we didn't mill, we just capped it.
Okay, the milling total on Northwest Georgia was for $82,149. And that was, I have not talked to Brian from Northwest Georgia, but it looks like that they're doing it by the yard. Like Stegall Drive. They've got 550 times 14 equals 855 yards at $5.35. So that comes to $4,574 for that street.
We have a dollar amount for each street. The method that they got, that dollar amount is different on the bids.
Per company.
Per company. So comparing it is very difficult.
Okay.
We can tell you money.
You can tell me what?
Money, the amount of money.
Yeah. Anyway, you know, we got a little bit from Northwest Georgia. Y'all happy with it?
I'm happy with it because we have a history of Northwest Georgia. They have done good work for us before, and there's some trust.
Entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we take the low bid from Northwest Georgia paving for $520,591.05.
Don't sound like much, but say it fast enough. Get a second? Second. Motion second, discussion. All in favor, vote by show of hands. That's good. Blight ordinance, Mr. Pickett.
I prepared a blight ordinance, which I gave, left here when I left at the work session. I don't think we're ready to do that yet.
Okay.
We already have a weed ordinance, and the piece of property that was given concern, I've already written a letter to the owner and told him to clean it up.
And you have Lonnie, I've sent out Lonnie many times, and Chief Lovell, and you got Jim Looney that you can send out. If you see something you don't like, and bring them in individually.
And we have 3 cases going on now.
Okay. No action.
I think, what I heard, it was maybe suggested putting that on a work session. So we'll put that on for the work session before the July 2nd meeting.
Okay. Resolution joint county comprehensive plan. Pickens County joint comprehensive plan. High skip rate application. I'm marking it already. I get bored and I start marking on my paper.
I'll pass this around.
Y'all just stand enjoying the festivities, or y'all?
Yes.
For the new person, I was going to read the ordinance.
Thank you.
All persons 62 or older with a household income of $15,000 or less may submit a request in writing to the City Council to be eligible for a 50% discount on their water, sewer, and or garbage service. In addition, all persons deemed legally disabled by the Social Security Administration with a household income of $15,000 or less may submit a request in writing to be eligible for the 50% discount. And she did bring us proof and filled out her application. We don't say names, we just pass it around.
Thank you for reading that.
Entertain a motion?
Make a motion to approve the reduced rate application.
Second.
Motion second, discussion. Being all in favor, vote with your hand. Unanimous. Now, item J. I finally got to it. Resolution, Pickens County Joint Comprehensive Plan 2018-2022. Lisa, I'm in no mood to read.
I'll read it. A resolution to adopt the Pickens County Joint Comprehensive Plan 2018 to 2022, including the cities of Jasper, Nelson, and Talking Rock. Whereas the Georgia Planning Act of 1989 requires local governments to develop and maintain a comprehensive plan to retain their qualified local government status and eligibility for state permits, grants, and loans. And whereas the Pickens County Joint Comprehensive Plan 2018-2022, including the cities of Jasper, Nelson, and Talking Rock, is now complete. And whereas such joint comprehensive plan update is approved by the Georgia Department of Community Affairs as meeting Georgia's minimum planning standards and procedures effective March 1st, 2014. And whereas the second and final public hearing on the draft plan was held on Monday, April 30th, 2018 at 6:30 p.m. at the Pickens County Commissioners Chambers, 1266 East Church Street, Jasper, Georgia, 30143. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of Jasper, Georgia hereby officially adopts the Pickens County Joint Comprehensive Plan 2018-2022, including the cities of Jasper, Nelson, and Talking Rock, resolved this 4th day of June 2018.
Entertain a motion.
So,
Got a motion?
Second.
Motion second, discussion. Being none, all in favor, vote with your hands. Thank you, Council. Mayor's report. Lisa, financial.
In your packet, you should have the financial report for the month, through the month of May 2018, and we are at or near budget in all departments. We collected sales tax last month, $99,185 for a yearly total of $504,088 compared to last year's total of $462,221.
That's the local option, is that right?
Yes, this is local option.
Okay, and that is
That's
25 and a little bit of change, 25% of the total county loss.
SPLOST, we collected $77,000 and for a total year to date of $473,000. Our cash balance at this time is $843,339.
We just spent $545,000.
Just committed that. And the water fund, we're at or near budget. We've collected so far this year in leachate $266,979. We've sold $53,000 worth of meters, and we're right at budget, which is right at 42% with our water and sewer sales. And that's all I had to report.
Questions, Council? Lonnie. Item B, roads and other reports.
Okay, Mayor and Council, we had a meeting at the county this morning with the DOT. A few things were brought up. One is what we call a big project from 515 into town.
A big project.
Yes, we were thinking that it was going to be let by the DOT in August of this year, but as of this morning, it has been moved to September of 2020.
Is that about 3 years?
Before they.
That's also known as a phantom project.
Before they are the ones, the DOT has hired this crew to come up and do all the locates and all the markings you see on the road, preparing for this, but I was informed this morning that it will be September of 2020. Second thing is the red lights at Community Bank and also Main Street, the new mass arms, and they are making sure that the color is correct. He brought that to my attention this morning. And also, one reason that they have not moved forward on that is because in one of the last meetings we talked about all the erosion in front of Burger King, that big ditch with the utilities there. And so the DOT engineers are doing a stormwater study to make sure what kind of pipe or what kind of drainage or whatever it means to fix that. And then they will do the red light and probably the ditch work at the same time. So that's about all I've got.
And the decel lane from the school, 53?
We have not talked to Bartow Paving yet.
They weren't there. They weren't here today.
They were here, but it was a lady that just come in at the last moment, and I mean she made the bid opening in 1 minute. So
and
we didn't know Northwest Georgia at Calhoun. Wasn't that right?
Northwest. Bartow did.
Yes.
Okay.
So I've got to call into men from Bartow and find out when they're going to do this.
Now that project I brought to Lonnie's attention this morning was supposed to have been midway through the parking lot, and somehow they shortchanged it.
They did 300 feet.
Yeah, they didn't do it as much as they were promising when they was left, and we didn't bother to ask them, did we? Anyway, but it's still going to help because 3 years now, 2 years and a half, 3 years, 2 years and a half now, it'll be 3 more years. It's been 3 years. It's jumped to 7 before. But 3 years is usually the limit. They're actually doing a few things that make me think that they may be serious. But we'll have traffic.
Marking all the utilities now. So that gives you some faith.
Okay.
So
we need to encourage cars to get on the back street because, now, good thing about this though, is that the school is not going to be opening up next year. So we'll have some relief there. It's going to be pleasant.
And also, just for the council and the public's information, the county is starting to resurface Hunter's Ridge and Lumber Company Road. I've already had a phone call. I don't know if that's the city doing that. It is not the city. It is the county. So,
yeah, do they contract it or they do it in and out?
No, they contract it.
Questions, council?
Well, the blue flags, are those leaks or just that they've...
No, Blue Flags is locates for the leak detection company. They have found, I don't know what they found today. I know they found 1 or 2 today, but they have found 7 leaks as of yesterday. Most of them are from a quarter gallon a minute to like 2 gallon a minute. We did locate one going into their sewer manhole. It was every bit of it underground, down on Dogwood, and it was estimated to be losing 20 gallon a minute.
So if I got a blue flag, it just means they found my...
That just means that the flag is there for the leak detection, find your meter and your service.
Okay. But the 20 gallon a minute, I think it might have been plus when I saw it. And we're looking at 10 million gallons a year. Don't sound like much until it spends 320, David, 365, 24 hours a day.
1,440 minutes.
1,440 minutes. That's a lot of water over a period of time, and it makes our loss increase well, we can't get it to EPD to work with us, we don't get that name.
And we do have access to their computer program now, and I can, as they ping the different locations that they're working, I can actually see that and cross-reference it with ours.
That's a good thing.
Okay. And, go ahead, Kirk.
Traffic control devices at Burger King and the erosion, is that part of the 2020 plan or sooner?
No, that's as soon as they can get everything worked out. I mean, they've been working on that for several months.
Okay.
So this is an extension of.
Okay, I just want to make sure they weren't pushing it off.
No.
Wonderful.
You can see utility lines exposed.
It's been that way for
So they're wanting to fix that also at the same time.
And that's, the city can't do it because it's DOT right away. So if somebody wants us to do it, can't. Thank you, Lonnie.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Chief Lowe.
Good morning, or good evening.
Good evening.
Almost. Hello. Good evening, Mayor and Council. City of Jasper Police Department for the month of May responded to 983 calls for service from the 911 center, responded to 54 motor vehicle accidents. There were 78 citations issued by the Jasper Police Department for the following: 1 DUI, 42 speeding, 7 seatbelts, 1 shoplifting, 1 reckless driving, 2 uninsured motorists, 23 miscellaneous violations, 1 suspended or revoked. Georgia State Patrol issued a total of 81 citations for a grand total of city for 159. There were a total of 41 state warrants taken for the following: obstruction, misdemeanor, 3 possession of marijuana less than an ounce, 3 possession of drug-related objects, 3 possession of controlled substance felony, 1 false statement to police officers, 22 counts of financial card fraud felony, financial transaction card theft felony, 2 theft of services misdemeanor, 1 giving false name and date of birth to officer misdemeanor, 4 counts of forgery in the 1st degree. Miscellaneous calls answered for 60 alarm calls, 16 domestic, 7 harassment, 4 trespassing, 86 suspicious activity calls, and 22 domestics, and investigated 2 burglaries.
And you thought you were living in Marietta.
Can you get him to run back through that?
Things have changed.
Robert?
Do y'all want me to get the data from my call?
If you would.
Would you please?
Do you want it from January 2000 to current 18, or do you want last year's as well too?
If you can give us a couple of years, I think.
Okay. Yeah, they could do it. I have to wait on the 911 director, Christie, who I have to break down wrecks from wrecks already occurred with injuries and unknown injuries. So, but I can get that this 2.5 year data to you prior to next council meeting. That's fine.
How'd the bike ride? How'd the bike ride go?
So far, so good. Like I said, a lot of them eating in town. I mean, they're everywhere.
Hey, tell the story about spandex. Somebody complained about how bad it was, this, that, and the other, and you said, these guys wearing spandex is not much of a problem?
Yeah, I mean, they were talking to the meeting, me and Jim Lee had us, I don't know, participated in a real rowdy crowd, like the Hell Angels was coming, guys with the spandex. Yeah, everything's going.
Well, all of them in shape, most of them.
Yeah, most of them. I'd hate to know I had to drive that bicycle up Burnt Mountain Road at the lot of tomorrow. I wouldn't even drive.
After sleeping on the floor at the gym tonight.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all seen it. It looks like a Civil War reenactment in City Park right now. There's tents everywhere.
That's scary.
Everywhere.
John, go by. Thanks, sir. Chief Love, Chief Rope, we know who you are.
I know who I am. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My report's only about 45 minutes long.
Send it to us.
For the month of May, the city's fire department responded to 115 calls. Those were no structure fires inside the city limits, 1 outside the city, 2 vehicle fires inside, none outside the city, no grass or brush fires in or out, 18 motor vehicle accidents with injuries inside, none outside the city, 49 emergency medical responses inside, 33 out, 8 other calls in, 4 out. As always, for the new council member, that's anything you didn't hear above. Anything listed in the other. Fire inspection looked at 2 sets of plans for construction and conducted 15 inspections.
Thank you. Question, Council? John, anything from JYSA?
Our baseball team's been pretty busy for the tournament, been a long time. Pretty good.
No other?
Mayor?
Yes.
If I can, I went by Bragg today at the park, spoke to some of their event coordinators, the ride director, and the report I had was wonderful. They said, you know, I spoke to a couple different people, very welcoming city, very friendly, and the food that was available was fantastic. So overall positive.